Listen. I have been teaching combat protocol at the Helix 7 Military Academy for 17 cycles, and in all that time I have never, and I mean never, seen anything quite as ridiculous as what happened with the human. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. My name is Torin. And yes, before you ask, I am what you would call a reptilian species. 4 arms, scales that can deflect most small arms' fire, and a jaw that can crack through steel plating. I am by all accounts intimidating. So when I tell you that what I witnessed made my scales go pale, you should probably pay attention. It started on a Tuesday. Well, not your Tuesday, obviously. We do not measure time like that out here. But for the sake of this story, let us call it Tuesday, because the human, Maya Chen, later told me that all the worst things happen on Tuesdays back on Earth. And honestly, after what I saw, I believe her. The combat training hall was packed, 47 students from 16 different species, all gathered for Instructor Vekmol's Advanced Defensive Tactics class. Vekmol was a Criterion, which meant he stood roughly 8 feet tall, had bone protrusions covering most of his body like natural armor, and possessed the kind of disposition that made most students check their life insurance policies before attending his classes. He hated humans. No, wait. Hate is too mild a word. He despised humans with the kind of passion usually reserved for ancient blood feuds or really bad cafeteria food. And Maya? Well, she was the only human at Helix 7, which meant she got the full force of his contempt on a daily basis. That Tuesday, Vekmol decided he had had enough. Chen, his voice boomed across the training hall, and I swear the temperature dropped 3 degrees. Front and center. Now. Maya had been stretching in the corner, doing some bizarre human flexibility exercise that made her look like she was trying to fold herself into a shipping container. She stopped, stood up, and walked over with this casual stride that suggested she had all the time in the universe. Her dark hair was pulled back in what she called a ponytail, her training uniform was spotless, and her face, completely neutral. That should have been Vekmol's first warning. You have failed every single combat simulation for 3 months, Vekmol snarled, leaning down so his face was level with hers. Bone spurs on his chin scraped against each other, making this awful grinding sound. Your species is weak, fragile. You have no natural weapons, no armor, no enhanced senses. You are prey pretending to be predators. Around the hall, other students shifted uncomfortably. Clela, an insectoid from Sector 9, clicked her mandibles nervously. Baraz, whose avian species prided themselves on honor, ruffled his feathers in what I had learned was disapproval. Maya just stood there, looking up at Vekmol with those dark brown eyes that never seemed to blink at the right times. I am recommending your immediate expulsion, Vekmol continued, clearly enjoying himself now. You will return to your little planet and tell them that humanity has no place among the warrior races of this galaxy. You will tell them that you are fit only for farming and manual labor and whatever other menial tasks your soft little hands can manage. Here is where it got interesting. Maya smiled. Not a big smile, not some aggressive baring of teeth. Just a small, knowing smile that touched the corners of her mouth and made her eyes crinkle slightly. Vekmol's bone spurs stopped grinding. His 3 eyes narrowed in confusion. This was not the reaction he expected. He wanted tears, or anger, or fear. The smile was not part of his script. Something amusing human. He growled, and I could hear the danger in his voice. So could everyone else. The hall went completely silent except for the hum of the ventilation systems. Instructor Vekmol, Maya said, and her voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that prey animals definitely do not possess. I think you should reconsider your position. Oh no. Oh no. No, no. I wanted to yell at her, to tell her to back down, to apologize, to do anything except challenge him. But I just stood there, frozen, watching this tiny human stand her ground against a being that could literally tear her apart with his bare hands. Vekmol laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Reconsider. You are telling me to reconsider. A failed student is giving me advice. He took a step closer, invading her space, using his size to intimidate. Give me one reason why I should not throw you out of this academy right now. Maya's smile grew just a fraction wider. Because you have not met my beast yet. The hall went even quieter, which I had not thought was possible. Several students exchanged confused glances. Beast? What beast? Humans did not have beasts. They barely had claws. Vekmol's confusion turned to rage. Are you mocking me, human? Not at all, Instructor, Maya replied, still with that infuriating calm. I am simply suggesting that before you threaten me again, you should meet him. Kaiser does not like it when people threaten me. He gets, well, protective. Kaiser? Vekmol repeated the name like it tasted bad. What manner of weapon is this Kaiser? Some pathetic human technology? A drone? A robot? No, Maya said softly, and for the first time I saw something flicker in her eyes. Something that made my survival instinct scream. He is family, and that is when everything went completely insane. Okay, I know what you are thinking. Torin, you said this happened on a Tuesday, and now you are jumping back 3 months. What kind of story structure is this? Trust me, you need context. Because what happened next makes absolutely no sense without understanding how we got there. Maya Chen arrived at Helix 7 on a transport ship from Earth, carrying exactly 2 bags and wearing an expression that I can only describe as mildly interested. Not excited, not nervous, just interested, like she was visiting a moderately entertaining museum instead of joining the most prestigious military academy in 7 sectors. The docking bay was crowded with new students. There was Hector, a Molossian whose species was literally made of living stone. There was Synthe, whose people could generate electromagnetic pulses from their bodies. There was Quella, whom I mentioned earlier, whose exoskeleton could withstand pressures that would crush most ships. And then there was Maya, 5 foot 6 inches of soft skin and fragile bones and absolutely no visible natural defenses whatsoever. We all thought the same thing. She would not last a week. The academy administrators thought so too, which is why they assigned her the worst quarters, the earliest training sessions, and Vekmol as her primary instructor. It was not official policy to weed out the weak, but it was not official policy either, if you know what I mean. Maya took it all with that same mild interest. Failed the first combat simulation? Mild interest. Got accidentally shoved into a wall by Hector during formation drills? Mild interest. Had her meal rations mistakenly given to another species? You guessed it, mild interest. But here is the thing that nobody noticed except me, and I only noticed because my species has exceptional peripheral vision. Whenever something happened to Maya, whenever someone pushed her or mocked her, or sabotaged her equipment, she would tap her communication band 3 times, just 3 quick taps, and then she would smile that same small smile and go about her day. I asked her about it once about 2 weeks into the semester. We were in the commissary, and I had just watched Boraz accidentally spill corrosive cleaning fluid near her table. The tapping, I said, sitting down across from her with my meal tray. On your comm band. What is that about? Maya looked up from her food, which she was eating with these bizarre twin utensils humans call forks, and gave me that smile. I am just checking in with my companion, letting him know I am okay. Companion? I asked. I thought humans traveled alone to the academy. No support staff permitted. Kaiser is not staff, she said, stabbing a piece of protein with more force than necessary. He is family, and he is very, very patient, but his patience has limits. I should have asked more questions. I should have investigated further, but I did not, because I am an idiot, and because at that moment Vekmol walked into the commissary, and Maya's expression went from mild interest to absolute stone. Over the next 3 months the pattern continued. Maya failed every combat simulation. She never complained. She never fought back against the constant harassment. She just tapped her comm band, smiled and waited. The other students started to relax around her. If Maya was going to break, she would have broken by now. They figured. She was harmless, weak, pathetic, really, but in a non-threatening way. Vekmol, however, only got angrier. It was like her refusal to break offended him on some personal level. He started singling her out more aggressively, criticizing her form, her speed, her strength. He made her run extra drills, carry heavier equipment, endure longer training sessions. Maya just kept smiling and tapping her comm band. And then came that Tuesday. Look, I am not going to pretend the Helix 7 Military Academy was some enlightened institution where all species were treated equally and prejudice did not exist. That would be a lie, and I am trying to be honest with you here. The truth is, there was a hierarchy. At the top were the apex predators, the species with natural weapons, enhanced strength, or unique abilities that made them dangerous. Think Criterians like Vekmol, Molossians like Hector, or the Raviks who could literally breathe fire. In the middle were the technical species, the ones who maybe were not physically intimidating but had brains that could calculate trajectory mid-flight or hack into security systems with their thoughts. And at the bottom, humans. along with a few other species that the Academy barely tolerated but kept around for, quote, diversity purposes. It was not officially stated, obviously. The Academy brochures talked about unity and cooperation and building a stronger galactic community, but everyone knew the truth. Some species were simply better suited for combat than others, and humans were not even on the list. This manifested in 1,000 small ways. The training equipment was never sized for human proportions. The simulations were designed for species with faster reflexes or tougher hides. The meal plans did not account for human dietary needs. The environmental controls in the barracks were always just slightly too cold or too hot for human comfort. And the instructors. Oh, the instructors were the worst. They would give demonstrations using examples that humans physically could not replicate. They would assign partner drills and deliberately pair Maya with species whose strength differential made the exercise pointless. They would schedule evaluations during times when human circadian rhythms made peak performance impossible. Vekmol took it to another level entirely. He had this game he liked to play called Predict a Failure, where he would announce before each simulation exactly how Maya would fail, and then design the simulation to make sure his prediction came true. Ambush from behind. Chen lacks spatial awareness. Overwhelming force. Chen lacks strength. Technical challenge. Chen lacks adaptability. The other students laughed. Even the nice ones like Quello or Barros would chuckle, awkwardly, because what else could you do when an instructor made a joke? You laughed, even if it was not funny, even if it was cruel. Maya never laughed. She would just stand there listening to Vekmol's predictions, nodding like he was giving her valuable feedback, and then walk into the simulation ready to fail exactly as predicted. Except, here is the thing. In month 2 I started noticing something odd. Maya was failing the simulations. Yes, but she was failing them in increasingly creative ways. Not like she was trying harder and coming up short, more like she was deliberately testing different approaches to see what happened. In one simulation she hid for the entire duration, using stealth instead of confrontation. She failed, but she lasted longer than anyone expected. In another she used the environment as a weapon, triggering a controlled avalanche that took out 3 opponents before succumbing to the 4th failure. But impressive. Vekmol hated it. Each creative failure felt like a personal insult to him. His critiques became harsher, his predictions more vindictive. He started making comments about humanity as a whole, about how they were a waste of resources, how they should stick to their own little corner of the galaxy and stop pretending to be warriors. And through it all, Maya kept tapping her comm band. 3 quick taps. Tap tapped. I asked her about it again. About 6 weeks before the Tuesday incident, we were in the training hall late at night. I had forgotten some equipment, and came back to retrieve it. Maya was there, alone, practicing hand-to-hand combat forms against a training dummy. You are getting better, I said, because she was. Her movements were sharper, more precise. She stopped mid-strike and turned to me. Thank you, Torin. The simulations do not reflect it, I added. No, she agreed, they do not. So why keep trying? Why not transfer to a technical program or a diplomatic track? Something more suited to human capability. Maya walked over to a bench and sat down, her breathing heavy. She grabbed a water container and drank deeply before answering. Because Vekmol needs to learn something important. What is that? She looked at me with those dark eyes, and for the first time I saw past the mild interest to something harder underneath, something that made my scales itch. That underestimating someone is the fastest way to lose a fight, and that humans, we do not forget insults. We remember them, we catalog them, we wait for the right moment, and then we respond. She stood up, stretched and headed for the door. Before she left, she paused and looked back at me. Kaiser is almost out of patience. When he arrives, things are going to change around here. Tell the others to stand clear when it happens. I should have asked what she meant. I should have reported the conversation to the administrators, but I did not, because some part of me, some deep instinctual part that my ancestors used to survive in hostile environments, recognized the truth in her words. Something was coming, and when it arrived, nobody was going to be ready. Right. So, back to Tuesday. Vekmol has just asked Maya what manner of weapon Kaiser is, and Maya has just said he is family. The hall is silent. Everyone is watching, and I am pretty sure my hearts, plural, are beating fast enough to power a small shuttle. Vekmol's bone spurs started grinding again, which was never a good sign. His 3 eyes narrowed until they were almost slits. Family. He repeated slowly, like he was tasting the word and finding it disgusting. Your species is even weaker than I thought if you consider weapons to be family. He is not a weapon, Maya said, and her voice was still calm, but there was an edge to it now, a sharpness. He is a companion, a partner, a friend, and you have spent 3 months insulting, threatening and bullying me while he has been waiting very patiently for permission to come here. Permission? Vekmol laughed again. From who? You? A failed student has no authority to grant permission for anything. Not from me, Maya said. From quarantine and customs. Turns out, galactic authorities get very nervous when humans want to bring certain Earth species off-world. Lots of paperwork, lots of medical checks, lots of questions about safety protocols. She paused, and that smile came back. But as of 0900 hours this morning, Kaiser was cleared for Station Helix 7. He should be here any minute now. Vekmol had had enough. I could see it in his posture, in the way his bone spurs flared out, in the way his massive hands clenched into fists. He was going to hurt her, not kill her, probably because that would mean too much paperwork, but hurt her badly enough that she would withdraw from the academy voluntarily. He took a step forward, raising one hand with claws extended. You insolent little prey animal. I am going to teach you respect the hard way. Maya did not move, did not flinch, just stood there, looking up at him with that expression of mild interest that I now realized was not interest at all, but rather the look of someone waiting for a show to start. Last warning, instructor, she said softly. You should meet my beast before you threaten me again. Vekmol's hand came down in a strike that would have sent Maya flying across the hall if it had connected. But it did not connect, because at that exact moment the reinforced blast doors to the training hall, doors that were designed to withstand small arms fire and could only be opened with proper authorization codes, exploded inward with a screech of tearing metal. Every student in the hall jumped. Quella actually teleported 3 feet to the left, which I did not even know she could do. Eros went airborne instantly, wings snapping out in panic. I hit the floor, all 4 arms over my head, convinced we were under attack. The doors crashed to the ground, throwing up dust and debris. Through the smoke and chaos, something massive moved, something low to the ground, something that growled with a sound that made every predatory instinct in my body scream danger. And then it walked into the light. I am going to do my best to describe what I saw, but you have to understand, my species has no frame of reference for this. The closest comparison would be a Ravix hunter beast, but that is not quite right. Or maybe a Kelthon warhound, but those are reptilian, and this was definitely not reptilian. The creature was roughly 4 feet tall at the shoulder and maybe 6 feet long. It had 4 legs, each ending in paws that clicked against the metal floor. Its body was covered in fur, brown and black and tan, thick enough to provide insulation but short enough to see the muscle moving underneath. Its head was triangular with pointed ears that swiveled independently, tracking every sound in the hall. But the eyes. Oh, the eyes. They were brown, like Maya's, but where hers showed mild interest, these showed absolute focus. Predatory focus. The kind of focus that said this creature knew exactly where every living being in the room was located and exactly how long it would take to reach them. Its mouth was partially open, revealing teeth that were clearly designed for tearing meat, not the specialized teeth of herbivores, not the grinding teeth of omnivores, carnivore teeth, predator teeth. And from that mouth came a growl that resonated in frequencies I did not know I could hear. The creature wore some kind of armor, black material that covered its body without restricting movement. On its side was a symbol, what I later learned was the flag of a nation called Germany from Earth, and around its neck was a collar with a communication device that matched the one on Maya's wrist. It locked eyes with Vekmol and the growl intensified. Every single survival instinct I possessed screamed at me to run, to hide, to do anything except stay in the same room as this creature. And then Maya spoke. Kaiser, heal. The creature immediately moved to her side, pressing against her leg while never taking its eyes off Vekmol. Its growl lowered in volume but did not stop entirely. Up close I could see that it was even more muscular than I initially thought, built like a coiled spring ready to explode into violence. Class, Maya said in a conversational tone, like she had not just unleashed a nightmare into our training hall. Meet Kaiser. He is a German shepherd from Earth. We have been partners for 6 years. He has training in protection, detection, tracking and combat. He responds to 47 different commands in 3 languages, and he does not like people who threaten me. Vekmol had frozen in place. His hand was still raised from his interrupted strike, but now it trembled slightly. His 3 eyes were fixed on Kaiser with an expression I had never seen on his face before. Fear. Real, genuine fear. This, Vekmol said slowly. This is against regulations. Animals are not permitted in the academy. Kaiser is not an animal, Maya replied calmly. He is a trained military working companion. Earth submitted the proper documentation months ago. The academy approved it this morning. Check your messages. Vekmol did not check his messages. He could not take his eyes off Kaiser, who continued to stare at him with that unwavering predatory focus. Get that thing away from me. That thing has a name, Maya said, and now there was no smile. Her voice went cold in a way that made even me nervous. His name is Kaiser. He is my partner, and for 3 months, I have watched you bully, threaten, and humiliate me while he waited patiently at the quarantine facility. Do you know how hard it is to explain to a dog why his human keeps coming back smelling like stress and fear? Do you know how many times I had to tell him to wait, to be patient, that we were following the rules? Kaiser's growl increased in volume. Vekmol took a step backward. But now, Maya continued, now he is here, and he knows exactly what you tried to do just now. He saw you try to strike me, and I have spent 6 years training him to protect me from threats. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was ice cold. You raised your hand against me, Instructor, in front of witnesses, while my trained protection companion was watching. Would you like to continue this interaction? Because I promise you Kaiser is very, very good at his job. Okay, I need to explain something about the next few minutes because they happened very fast and I was mostly trying not to die, so my memory might be a bit fragmented. But I will do my best. Vekmol, who had never backed down from anything in his entire life, continued backing away from Maya and Kaiser. His bone spurs were still flared out in a threat display, but his body language screamed prey animal trying to look bigger. It was not working. I am an instructor at this academy, Vekmol said, but his voice lacked its usual authority. I have authority over students. If I determine a threat, I am within my rights to neutralize it. Then neutralize it, Maya said simply. Kaiser is right here. Show the class your superior combat skills. Demonstrate why humans are just prey pretending to be predators. This was a trap. Even in my panic state I could see it was a trap. But Vekmol, blinded by rage and embarrassment and probably a bit of that fear he was trying so hard to hide, did not see it. Or maybe he did see it and his pride would not let him back down. He lunged at Kaiser. It was actually a decent attack. Fast, powerful, using his size advantage to try to pin the creature to the ground. Against most beings his size or smaller it would have worked. Against a Molossian or a Ravix. Maybe even against one of those given Vekmol's training. Against Kaiser, not even close. The dog, because I later learned that is what Kaiser's species was called, moved like liquid violence. One moment he was sitting calmly at Maya's side. The next moment he was airborne, jaws open, meeting Vekmol's lunge head-on. They collided with a sound like 2 shuttles crashing. Kaiser's teeth found purchase on Vekmol's forearm, right between the bone plating where the skin was vulnerable. The bite was precise, controlled, but I could see blood. Green blood. Criterion blood. Vekmol roared in pain and tried to shake Kaiser off. Kaiser held on with a grip that looked unbreakable. His back legs found the ground and he started pulling, using leverage and body weight to drag Vekmol down. It should not have been possible. Kaiser could not have weighed more than 90 pounds. Vekmol was easily 600 pounds of bone and muscle. But Kaiser was not just using his strength. He was using technique. Every time Vekmol shifted his weight, Kaiser adjusted. Every time Vekmol tried to strike with his free hand, Kaiser repositioned to keep the arm he had bitten between himself and the strike. It was like watching a master combatant who happened to have 4 legs and a tail. Kaiser, release, Maya said calmly. Kaiser let go immediately and backed away, falling into a ready stance that clearly said he would absolutely do that again if needed. Vekmol stumbled backward, clutching his bleeding arm, his 3 eyes wide with shock. What? Vekmol gasped. What is that thing? I told you, Maya said, walking over to Kaiser and resting her hand on his head. Kaiser leaned into her touch, but never took his eyes off Vekmol. He is my beast, my companion, my partner, and he has been bred for 40,000 years to protect humans. 40,000 years. Do you know what 40,000 years of selective breeding creates, Instructor? It creates loyalty so deep it cannot be broken. It creates intelligence that can understand complex commands. It creates a bond between species that your people could never achieve because you view everything as either dominant or submissive. She scratched behind Kaiser's ears and the dog's tail wagged slightly despite his combat-ready posture. Humans do not have natural weapons. We do not have armor or claws or venom. But we have this. We have the ability to look at another species and say, you know what? Let us be friends. Let us work together. Let us make each other stronger. Maya looked around the hall at all of us watching in stunned silence. Every human soldier has the option of partnering with a dog. Not all do, but many do. They work together, fight together, live together. The dog protects the human's weaknesses. The human protects the dog's weaknesses. Together, they are more than the sum of their parts. She turned back to Vekimel, who was still clutching his wounded arm. You spent 3 months trying to break me, trying to prove that humans are weak. But you forgot something important. Humans are never alone. We bring our friends with us, our family, our pack. Kaiser barked once, a sharp sound that made several students jump. It was not aggressive, it was almost joyful, like he was agreeing with Maya. This creature, Vekimel said weakly, attacked an instructor. It will be destroyed. No, came a new voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Administrator Quelix, the station commander standing where the blast doors used to be. Her energy form flickered with colors I had learned meant anger. It will not. I have reviewed the security footage. You attempted to strike a student with enough force to cause serious injury. The human's companion defended her using appropriate and measured force. You are lucky he stopped when commanded. Most species would have continued the attack. She floated into the room, her form crackling with energy. Instructor Vekimel, you are suspended pending a full investigation. Student Chen, please bring Kaiser to my office. We need to discuss proper protocols for his presence at the academy. She paused, her form flickering through several colors. And Miss Chen, welcome to Helix 7. Both of you. The administrator's office was nothing like I expected. Torin again, by the way, because Maya was kind enough to fill me in on what happened after the training hall incident. She said I deserved to know since I had been one of the few students who treated her with basic decency. Her words, not mine, but I appreciated them. Quelix's office was huge, with windows overlooking the docking bays and stations beyond. Holographic displays showed security feeds, class schedules, and what looked like medical reports. Kaiser sat calmly at Maya's feet, his armor removed, looking less like a combat nightmare and more like, well, like a regular animal. A regular, very alert animal whose eyes tracked every movement in the room. I apologize for the delay in processing Kaiser's clearance, Quelix said, her form settling into a calm blue color. Galactic Customs was, understandably, concerned about introducing an Earth predator to a multi-species environment. Kaiser is not a predator in the way you mean, Maya replied. He is domesticated. He has been domesticated for longer than some species have had written language. Yes, Quelix agreed. I have been reading the files Earth sent over. They are quite remarkable. She pulled up a holographic display showing images of dogs throughout human history. Hunting, herding, guarding, fighting alongside human soldiers, detecting explosives, finding survivors in disaster zones, providing comfort to the traumatized. 40,000 years, Quelix said softly. Your species has been partnered with dogs for 40,000 years. The oldest alliances in this galaxy barely stretch back 10,000 years, and most of those ended in war. But humans and dogs, still together, still working as one. Dogs are not our servants, Maya explained, scratching Kaiser's ears. He leaned into her hand, eyes half closed in contentment. They are family. We feed them, care for them, give them purpose and love. In return, they give us loyalty, protection, companionship. It is not a transactional relationship. It is a bond. Quelix's form shifted through several colors, a sign I had learned meant deep thought. Most species in the galaxy cannot comprehend this. We form alliances based on mutual benefit. We cooperate when it serves our interests. But this? She gestured at Maya and Kaiser. This is something else entirely. Pack bonding, Maya said. Humans do it with almost anything. Dogs, cats, horses, even plants. We see something, and we go, you are my friend now. I will protect you and you will be part of my family. It is why we are so good at diplomacy when we want to be. It is also why we are so dangerous when threatened. Because when you attack one of us, you attack all of us. Kaiser lifted his head and looked at Maya, then back at Quelix. His tail thumped against the floor twice. Thump thump. The reports from Earth, Quelix continued, indicate that military working dogs have a success rate in combat operations that exceeds most advanced technology. They can detect explosives that scanners miss. They can track targets across terrains where sensors fail. They can assess threats faster than computer algorithms. How is this possible? Maya smiled. Because they are not just tools. They love their work. They love their partners. A dog does not find explosives because it was programmed to. It finds explosives because it wants to make its human happy. It wants praise, play, affection. That motivation, that emotional drive, makes them better than any machine. Extraordinary, Quelix said. And you have trained Kaiser specifically for protection. Among other things, Maya agreed. He knows search and rescue, detection, tracking. But yes, his primary role is protection. Where I go, he goes. That is the deal. This changes everything. Quelix said, more to herself than to Maya. If humans can bond with other species this deeply, if they can create partnerships that last millennia, then perhaps we have been evaluating them incorrectly. Perhaps their lack of natural weapons is not a weakness but an adaptation. They did not need to evolve claws because they convinced an entire species to provide claws for them. Maya laughed. I never thought of it that way, but yeah, that is pretty accurate. Quelix turned to Maya, her form stabilizing into a determined green color. I am removing Vekmol from the academy permanently. His behavior toward you was unacceptable. Furthermore, I am approving Kaiser's full integration into the academy. He will attend all your classes, all your training sessions. I want the other students to see this partnership. I want them to understand what they are really facing when they face humanity. Thank you, Administrator, Maya said. I think you will find that Kaiser is a very good student. Better than me in some ways. Kaiser barked once, his tail wagging. Quelix's form flickered through colors I did not recognize, and then she did something unprecedented. She laughed. I did not know energy beings could laugh, but there it was, a sound like wind chimes in a storm. Ms. Chen, I think you and Kaiser are going to do just fine here, and I think the rest of the galaxy needs to update its understanding of humanity. Because a species that can inspire that kind of loyalty. She gestured at Kaiser, who had now rolled onto his back for belly rubs, looking utterly non-threatening. A species that can turn predators into family. They are far more dangerous than we ever imagined. Word spread fast about what happened in the training hall. By the time Maya and Kaiser returned to the barracks, everyone knew. Within a day, every student at Helix 7 knew. Within a week, the story had spread to other stations, other academies, other sectors. The human who brought her beast. The tiny soft creature with no natural weapons who had a predator as family. The student who had smiled while being threatened because she knew backup was coming. Reactions were mixed. Some species were horrified. The Kelthar Collective filed a formal complaint about allowing dangerous Earth fauna into a controlled environment. The Ravix clans demanded additional security measures. The Molassian Alliance suggested that Maya and Kaiser be confined to isolated training areas. But others were fascinated. Clela started asking Maya questions about the human-dog bond, trying to understand how two species could work together so seamlessly. Baros requested permission to observe Kaiser's training sessions. Even Hector, who had been one of the worst bullies, approached Maya with something resembling respect and asked if Kaiser would demonstrate his tracking abilities. Kaiser, for his part, seemed to enjoy the attention. He attended every class with Maya, sitting calmly during lectures, participating enthusiastically in physical training. The new instructors since Vekmol's departure, quickly learned that Kaiser's presence improved class discipline significantly. Nobody wanted to start trouble with the human when her 90-pound backup was watching. The combat simulations changed too. When Maya requested that Kaiser be allowed to participate, the administrators agreed, curious to see how the partnership would perform. The results were, well, unprecedented. Remember how I said Maya had been failing every simulation for 3 months? That stopped immediately. With Kaiser by her side, Maya passed simulations that had been designed for species with twice her strength and 3 times her speed. Kaiser would scout ahead, detect hidden threats, provide flanking support. Maya would coordinate strategy, provide ranged attacks when needed, adapt tactics on the fly. They moved like one being split into 2 bodies. When Maya went left, Kaiser went right, automatically covering her blind spot. When Kaiser alerted to danger, Maya immediately adjusted position, trusting his senses over her own. They did not need to communicate verbally. A gesture from Maya, A glance from Kaiser, and they both knew the plan. The instructors started using their performances as teaching examples. This is coordination. This is trust. This is what partnership looks like when done correctly. Other students tried to replicate it, forming teams, attempting to achieve that same seamless cooperation. Some succeeded to varying degrees. None came close to what Maya and Kaiser demonstrated. I asked Maya about it once, about 3 weeks after the incident. We were in the commissary again, and Kaiser was lying under the table, gnawing on some kind of compressed protein treat that Maya had special ordered from Earth. How do you do it? I asked. How do you coordinate so perfectly without constant communication? Maya looked down at Kaiser, who paused his chewing to look back up at her. Some kind of understanding passed between them that I could not interpret. We do communicate, Maya said. Just not with words. Kaiser reads my body language, my tone, my sound. I read his posture, his ear position, his breathing. We have been together for 6 years. We know each other better than I know most humans. But how did it start? How did humans first form this bond with dogs? Maya smiled. Nobody knows for sure. Best guess. About 40,000 years ago, some wolves started hanging around human camps, eating scraps. Humans realized these wolves could warn them of danger. Wolves realized humans were a reliable food source. Over thousands of years we changed each other. Wolves became dogs. Less aggressive, more social. Humans became more empathetic, better at reading nonverbal communication. We co-evolved. So it was mutual benefit, I said. Like an alliance. It started that way, Maya agreed. But it became something more. It became love. True, genuine, unconditional love. And that is what people like Vecamol never understood. You cannot fake that. You cannot force it. It happens because both species choose it. Every single day for 40,000 years. Kaiser finished his treat and put his head on Maya's lap. She scratched his ears absently while continuing to eat with her other hand. The gesture was so natural, so automatic, that I realized this was what she had been trying to explain. They were not human and dog. They were pack, family. Helix 7 owes you an apology, I said quietly. We all do. We judged you based on your physical form and forgot that evolution takes many paths. Humans did not evolve claws because you evolved something better. Partnership. We are good at it, Maya admitted. Not perfect. Humans still fight each other, still make mistakes. But when we commit to someone, when we bring them into our pack, we are unbreakable. Kaiser's tail thumped against the floor in agreement. Thump, thump, thump. 6 months later, the changes at Helix 7 were permanent and far-reaching. The Academy had updated its policies to allow companion species from any planet, provided they met certain safety and training requirements. Several other human students had arrived with their own partners. There was a border collie named Scout who could herd panicking crowds during evacuation drills, a bloodhound, named Judge, who could track biochemical signatures across 3 sectors, a Belgian Malinois named Fury, who made Kaiser look calm by comparison. But Kaiser remained the standard by which all others were measured. He had become something of a station mascot. Younger students would ask Maya if they could pet him. Instructors would use him as demonstration in tactics classes. Even the hardened combat veterans who visited from active duty zones would stop and admire the human dog team. Maya had been promoted to advanced combat classes and served as an assistant instructor in coordination and teamwork modules. She taught other species about pack bonding, about trust, about how to build relationships that went beyond mutual benefit. Some species understood quickly, others struggled with the concept, but all of them respected her now. The soft human with no natural weapons had proven herself more capable than most. I was sitting in one of these classes when a new instructor walked in. His name was Travok, another Criterion like Vecamol, and I felt my scales go cold when I saw him. Were we going back to the old ways? Would Maya face another torment? Travok walked to the front of the class, looked at Maya and Kaiser sitting calmly in the second row, and did something unexpected. He bowed, a full formal Criterion bow that indicated respect for a worthy opponent. Student Chen, he said, his voice lacking any of the contempt Vecamol had carried. I have reviewed your file and watched recordings of your simulation performances. I have also consulted with colleagues across 7 academies about the unique nature of human-dog partnerships. I must admit, I am impressed. Maya tilted her head, clearly not expecting this. Thank you, instructor. I trained with Vecamol, Travok continued. We came up through the same military branch. He was a good soldier but a poor teacher. He allowed his prejudices to blind him to potential. I do not intend to make the same mistake. He looked down at Kaiser, who gazed back with calm assessment. Your companion is welcome in my class. I look forward to learning from both of you. The class was silent. This was a criterion, one of the most prideful species in the galaxy, admitting he had something to learn from a human. It was unprecedented. Travok began his lecture on tactical coordination, but about 20 minutes in he stopped and looked at Maya. Student Chen, would you and Kaiser be willing to demonstrate pack hunting tactics? I have explained the theory, but I think the class would benefit from seeing it in practice. Maya stood, and Kaiser immediately came to attention beside her. What parameters, Instructor? You and Kaiser versus 4 combat drones. Standard weaponry. Closed environment. Show us how a human-dog team approaches overwhelming force. Maya smiled. That same small smile from months ago that I now recognized as confidence, not fear. With pleasure. The class moved to the training hall, the same hall where this all started. The blast doors had been repaired, reinforced even more heavily than before. Maya and Kaiser stood in the center while 4 combat drones positioned themselves around the perimeter. Travok activated them with a gesture. What happened next was a masterclass in coordination. Kaiser darted forward, drawing fire from 2 drones while Maya moved into cover. The drones tracked Kaiser, but he was too fast, too unpredictable. While they focused on him, Maya emerged from cover and disabled one with precise shots. Kaiser immediately pivoted, charging the second distracted drone while Maya covered him. They moved like water, flowing around obstacles, supporting each other, anticipating each other's need. Within 90 seconds all 4 drones were disabled. Maya and Kaiser stood in the center of the hall, neither even breathing hard, looking at Travok expectantly. Travok's bone spurs flared out, but not in threat, in respect. Remarkable. You used the drone's programming against them. They prioritized the faster target, assuming it was the greater threat, but the real threat was your coordination. They were fighting 2 individuals. You were fighting as one unit. That is the secret, Maya said, walking over to Kaiser and running her hand along his back. Humans are not strong. We are not fast. We are not the deadliest predators. But we are the best at cooperation. We see another being, even another species, and we think, what if we work together? What could we accomplish? And then we make it happen. She looked around at all of us students, from a dozen different species with a dozen different natural abilities. Every single one of you is more physically capable than me. You all have advantages I will never have, but I have Kaiser, and together we are stronger than either of us alone. That is what humans bring to the galaxy, not physical power, not advanced technology. We bring the ability to turn strangers into friends, friends into family, and family into something unbreakable. Kaiser barked once, his tail wagging, and the whole class, every single student, even the ones who had mocked Maya months ago, applauded. Not because they had been told to, not because it was polite, but because they finally understood what they were witnessing. True partnership, true loyalty, true pack bonding. Travok approached Maya and Kaiser, and this time he knelt down to Kaiser's level. May I? He asked, gesturing toward Kaiser. Maya looked at Kaiser. Kaiser looked at Maya. Some silent communication passed between them, and then Kaiser sat, his tail wagging slowly. He says yes, Maya translated. Travok, this massive warrior whose species prided themselves on individual strength, carefully reached out and placed one massive hand on Kaiser's head. Kaiser leaned into the touch, accepting it. Your beast is remarkable, student Chen. He is not my beast, Maya corrected gently. He is my partner, my friend, my family, and his name is Kaiser. Travok nodded slowly. Kaiser, I will remember. He stood and addressed the whole class. Today you have learned that strength comes in many forms. Physical power is one form, but loyalty, trust, partnership, these are strengths that can surpass any natural weapon. Remember this lesson. Remember that the greatest warriors are not always the strongest, the fastest, or the most dangerous. Sometimes the greatest warriors are those who never fight alone. I watched Maya and Kaiser leave the hall together, moving in that synchronized way they had, and I realized something important. Humanity was going to change the galaxy. Not through conquest, not through superior technology, but through this incredible ability to look at another species and say, you are my friend now, let us face the universe together. And honestly, after seeing what Maya and Kaiser could do, I did not think the universe stood a chance. 3 cycles later, The Helix 7 Military Academy graduated its first human-dog combat team. Maya Chen and Kaiser received honors in tactics, coordination, and combat effectiveness. They were assigned to a mixed-species frigate on patrol duty in the outer sectors, and last I heard they were doing excellently. The crew loved Kaiser. The captain said he was the best morale officer the ship had ever had, but more importantly they were together. Human and dog, pack and family, partners who chose each other across the vast gap between species and made something beautiful from that choice. Vekmal, by the way, was last seen working as a freight inspector at a remote mining station. I heard he refuses to work anywhere that allows dogs, which is fine. The galaxy is a big place, and it is getting smaller every day as more humans arrive with their companions, ready to show everyone what real partnership looks like. And me. I put in a request to Earth for information about something called cats. Apparently humans bonded with another predator species thousands of years ago, and the results are complicated. But if it is anything like what I witnessed with Maya and Kaiser, I cannot wait to see it.